that have families and have responsibilities, these responsibilities keep piling up, aren't they? And if you look at our fellow human beings, we can see just how much we fed up. It's not going to get any better. So what do we have to do then? Do we have to get to a point where we give up completely? Or is there hope? Is there something, a formula that at least we can look up to? Look at the self-help books. They are digging a gold rush from trying to help people that are depressed. People that long to just take a break from all these burdens that we get from the world. But then again, we've all heard this name Jesus. And it's all over the place, isn't it? You come to the train and you find individuals like myself that preach Jesus. You turn on your TV, world of entertainment. You watch your movies, but then you find other channels that also talk Jesus. So everyone is talking Jesus, and this Jesus has been around for a long time. And he promised he's coming back, and he's promised that he can help anyone that calls upon his name. But have things changed? This Jesus still hasn't come yet. And this Jesus who's promised that he can help us with everything is not helping. The moment we call upon the name Jesus to truly help us, because things are not getting any better, nothing happens. There's silence. And most of us give up. We just, we try other options. And all the sangumas that we see is just one portion of people that say, no, I can help. If you need marriage problems, I can help you. We see all these advertisements, but do we believe that Jesus can really help? Because remember, there's a difference here between the name Jesus and his character. If you're married, the difference between knowing the name of your spouse and knowing them, who they are, this is a big difference. So this Jesus Christ, yes, he's been preached everywhere. But do we know him? Do we know what Jesus Christ is all about? Do we understand how he thinks? The patience he's got for us. The intentions that he's got for our lives. Do we ask ourselves these very important questions? Why are we suffering? Why are we still alive? And why are we going through all these difficulties of life? Is there a lesson that we have to learn from all these experiences that we have in life? Is there a reason why we are going through things that we're going through? These are very important questions we need to ask ourselves. And life is not a joke. Life is as serious as we see it. So if we're going to get to a point where we start to take things seriously, where we start to listen to what is being told to us, if we can get to a point where we look at all the hardships of life, look beyond the fact that it's not just the suffering that has to count, because complaining wouldn't be any better, would it? There's more to life. The moment we get to the point where we start seeing meaning, where we can't fear anymore, where we don't have to run away from all the insecurities of life, if we can get to that point, then something will be revealed to us. And you see, this Bible is not just a book. It's a love letter. You see, God loves us so much that he wrote everything we need to hear. If you had somebody that loves you so much and they wrote you a love letter, they gave you all the directions, where you meet them, what time you have to meet them, how you have to dress, how you have to eat, and everything was written in this love letter. Don't you think the right thing would be to read everything written in this letter? But if we ignore portions of it, if we only read 10% of this love letter, then the 90% would have missed completely. And this book, whether we've read it wholeheartedly or we haven't read it, the one thing that we need to know is that everything that we have to internalize to get love, to get peace of mind, to get joy, to get everything that we long for is highlighted in this book. And think about it. All of us want to be well. It's not the money that we want, because if it's the money that we wanted, then we'd be storing it in our houses. And it's not the health that we want. There's more to it. And all these things bring assurance that leads up to what is written in this book. There was a time, long time ago, when mankind was going through misery. The earth had reached to a point it was at its darkest. And then this Jesus Christ that all these Jews were waiting for came. So now when Jesus Christ came, what did he come to do? Did he come to restore the broken in spirit? Did he come to give encouragement? Did he come to bring back the very reason why mankind should live? This Jesus Christ, how important is he supposed to be to our lives? Well, we have the record in the Bible. It's one thing to speculate what the Word of God is supposed to be, and then it's another to read for ourselves and understand how it was. How it was. The very first sermon that Jesus Christ preached was amazing. You have to understand that perception is important. Each one of us here has different viewpoints. Every experience, whether it's the same one, the very experience that we're traveling wherever we're going, we experience it differently. Every human being is different. And these Jews looked at this man, and he had gathered a crowd. They perceived him to be a king that was going to play the Nelson Mandela role. You know, they were oppressed under Roman power. And these Jews were a nation. What they were looking for was somebody who would be a king. A king that would give them freedom from this oppression from the Romans. And he was a king, but he wasn't a king that would give them freedom from political power. He was a king that was going to free them from sin. He was a king that was going to remove, you see that pain that you have of disappointment from the world. When the world knocks you down to the ground and you have no option, no hope. Whatever plan you have in mind doesn't work. And he came to free them from that weakness, that limitation. And this king spoke powerful blessings. Remember, it's Jesus Christ that is the Word. And he spoke in literal 7 days, everything came to existence. With the very same power that he spoke, and there was about creation, he spoke blessings. They were expecting him to give a powerful speech of how he's going to be a king that will give them freedom. but he disappointed them and then gave them blessings of hope. Blessings that would give them just enough strength to cope for another day, maybe a week, maybe even more than that. And the very first words that he spoke was, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Have you thought about that? And this is English. When he spoke, it wasn't in English. The word he used there for poor is somebody that has reached the limit. You see, each one of us longs to have assurance so that we can cope in life. But there's people that don't have not even one option to lean on. The fact that they sleep in the streets is not sufficient enough. The fact that they don't even have strength to beg for a 1 rand is not enough. The fact that they don't even have any friends. You see, when you get to a point where when you beg and you don't have enough strength to beg, what do people do? People come to our aid to say, "All right, this person is poor. I need to give them 1,000,000 rands." Do they do that? Or do you just become worse than a dustbin? See, that's the point when you have nothing. Even the very clothing that you have to use to keep yourself warm in the streets is useless. It's all falling apart. That poverty is the poverty that Jesus Christ was referring to. He was saying, no, not me trying to bring about freedom from Rome. I'm going to appeal to people that are so poor. And there's a blessing to those that have absolutely nothing. Because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And he doesn't stop there, he continues. He says, "Blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted." Try to imagine having a child, your only child. Mothers would relate to this expression. You only have one child. What happens, or how would you feel if that one child that you had passed away? Would anyone, do you believe as a mother or even a father, do you believe anyone would be able to relate to just how much pain that you'll be going through? Or is it that you're the only one that would relate to how you feel at that moment when you lose that child of yours? And Jesus Christ appealed to that mourning that reaches down to the heart. Nobody can understand what each one of us is going through. And that pain that we go through, he appealed to that. He said, "Blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted." Have you thought about that? We can't just read the word of God like we're reading a newspaper. This is, when you read this, it's highlighted in red. This is God speaking. And he continues to say, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And in this world where we live, it's all hardships everywhere. Each one of us is trying to make a living. And when we get to the point where with the struggling and with trying to just get a better position in life, those that are dominant, those that fight to get what they want, eventually get it. But what happens to those that are meek? What happens to those that are humble? Are they going to be stabbed and we see them lying in the streets bleeding to death? Are they going to be pushed on the side to the point it's poverty for them? And those that have greed and those that want it all will gain wealth and influence and power? Jesus Christ appealed to those that are meek. And he says, those that are meek, they will inherit earth. These are important principles. We see them in life and we can't just ignore them. we always have to remind ourselves that the reason why the world is where it is now, with so much confusion, and it's not going to get any better, is because the very simple principles that move society to a better place where each one of us sees joy and peace of mind is being ignored. And we need to bring this restoration back. This Jesus continues to say, blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. This hunger and thirsting that Jesus Christ was referring to is not just any hunger. Try not eating for a week. Not eating any food for a week. Maybe 2 weeks. If you've seen documentaries of people in Ethiopia, they go months without any food. To the point the body starts to provide food for themselves. That it starts to eat itself up. Have you ever seen somebody suffering from HIV and they have 3 days left? How does the body look like? It's eaten up. Think of somebody that would be in that state where their body is falling apart. They're shrinking out of hunger and out of thirst. That's the word that is used here. Absolute, no provision of any food. And if we can get to the point where we hunger for righteousness, even one word, because every time you preach Jesus, people get turned up. Everybody has heard this Jesus. But those that hunger for truth, whether it's in the Bible, whether it's on television, as long as it's something to do with this Jesus and his righteousness, those that hunger for this truth, they will be filled, Jesus Christ says. And he continues. He says, blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. Now you have to ask yourself here, think about it. Ladies and gentlemen, think about it. This Jesus Christ is talking to these people. They expected him to give a speech that would give them freedom, and he starts to give blessings. He starts to give blessings. What do you think Jesus Christ was doing here? Jesus Christ was talking about a Christian walk. You see, regardless of how tough things get in this world, there's always one way that leads to that path that gives us encouragement. That path that gives us, you see that feeling you get when you go on a vacation. Every one of us wants to be good. We want to be well off. And this Jesus Christ gives the remedy. He gives the requirement it takes for you to be well off, for you to have peace of mind and to be good. It has to be a process. You know, like you want to get your driver's license. You can't go straight to wherever you have to go and they give you that. You have to go through steps. Maybe a few documentations you need to fill in. Maybe a few lessons. Then maybe get to a point where they take you out to the field and you drive with an instructor. For us to get to a point where we have no worry, where we are never disappointed with life, there is requirements we have to go through. And the first point that Jesus Christ highlights is we have to get to a stage in life where we acknowledge that we are poor, that we are worth nothing. If we get to a point where indeed we acknowledge that we are not rich at all, we look and we examine our situation and we mature enough to say, yes, I'm not a billionaire, I don't own the world. Because if we puff up our chest and say, I know it all, I'm rich in knowledge, and I'm rich in goods, then we even haven't started with the first stage of what it means to be, what it means to take this journey for us to get to a point where we are well off. First stage is acknowledgement we are poor. That's the first one. Even the very rich people, believe me, believe they don't have it all. That's the very reason why they want more money. You see? But more, not necessarily. The more money you have doesn't mean you're rich. Doesn't mean you're rich. Money doesn't mean you're rich. Because ask the richest person in the world, they'll tell you they are not rich. So there's more to money. But that very first stage where you acknowledge you don't have the money and you're not rich in knowing everything in the world. Nobody knows everything. Then we're heading somewhere. Then the second stage is you have to get to a point where you mourn for just how much you lack. You see, the arrogant people in this world, the ones that are murderers, the ones that steal, they boast about it because they haven't fully mourned how bad things get. If you were to kill someone, think of think of how the family would feel. Do you think those people that steal or kill or do bad things, do they mourn for their actions? And that's what it takes, getting to that point where you become matured in realizing that I have all the reasons to believe that I need to be sorrowful, that I don't have everything, spiritually speaking. Spiritually speaking. Because even character changes. The way you behave would be different. You become considerate in looking at principles that lead for you to become a better person. You see? That's the second stage. And this Jesus Christ was bringing about restoration in character. That's the point. Because if each one of us here didn't care about anybody, then we do anything. And this Christ had to bring about character in society to each individual. And he reached out to that second point. Being sorrowful for everything bad means you get to a point where you disregard anything to do with being a bad person. The second stage would have to be change in being meek. You see, only those that know that bad things are bad. Put it this way, when you go to a funeral, somebody has just lost someone and they've got all these people around them trying to get comforting company. How do they behave? Are they excited because somebody has passed away, or are they meek? Are they humble to understand that they're still alive and that the experience that they've encountered in having a loss of a life brings about meekness? How does somebody at a funeral behave? And that's the second stage. Once you are sorrowful for the fact that you don't have anything, you're poor, then it will be inevitable that you'd become humble. And then from there, Jesus Christ mentions the word merciful. If you are merciful to somebody, then you obtain mercy. And that's what it takes in this Christian life. If you look at one another and you look past what people wear, because clothing is nothing. These clothes, when we die, they stay behind. Even the very wealth that brings about this clothing, look past that. Try to look at how somebody regards other human beings regards themselves as well. If they can be merciful to what they have done in their lives, if they can be merciful to other people, then they will obtain mercy. And there's a direct proportion here. The more merciful you are to other people, the more mercy you get. The more mercy you get. And these steps are important. And then Jesus Christ gives another blessing. He gives another blessing. And he says, blessed are the poor in heart, for they shall see God. You see, once you go through those steps and you get to the point where you surrender the smoking, you surrender the lying, and you understand why you have to surrender them. Because it's one thing to just stop doing the bad thing and not know why you stop it to do the bad thing. And it's the other to stop and understand why. That's the point. We need to get to a point where we understand why it's bad, why it's relevant for us to stop doing the bad things. That's the point. And once we get to that point, then we'll be able to say it's like a car. If you have a car that is fueled on petrol, you can't throw in diesel. But the more you throw in diesel, the car just keeps getting worse. The car just keeps getting worse. The moment you get to the point where you realize it's the petrol that you have to throw in, then you will seek for petrol to go in. So with mankind, it's the same thing. The moment we realize that in our lives we don't have to throw in poison, whether it's the music that we listen to or whether it's the thoughts that we accumulate, then we want to start throwing in things that are pure, things that bring about the healing process. It's only things that are pure that will bring happiness. You can't have a situation where you're taking poison and expecting life to flourish. You will get depression if you throw in poison. So this Jesus Christ is bringing across a point, a concept to say it's only up to the point that it becomes a blessing to those that are pure in heart, for they shall see God. This God that is invisible, what is he like? These are important questions we need to ask ourselves. Is it possible that we can be so reckless, we can just do things aimlessly and expect ourselves to see God? Is he a strict God? Is he a God that gives us regulations that we can't do this and we can't do that? Or is he one that loves us, that really wants to take care of us? If an earthly parent can have all the reasons to love us and do the best they can to see us well off, what about God? He created us. Does he truly understand the situations we go through? Does he understand that we also want to be free and do what we want to do? Does he want us to do the best things at heart? This God. And only those that are pure in heart will see God. This Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Boils down to that character again. If somebody is good and you genuinely can see that this person is a good person, how do you feel around them? Do you get disappointed? Do they give you encouragement when you're going through tough times? Think about it. You've just failed an exam if you were a student, or if you were working, you just lost your job. How would you feel just when you're at your lowest point, when you are surrounded by somebody that is good? Somebody that gives you encouragement, that cuts down right to the bone. Does it bring encouragement and comfort? does it bring about disappointment? These are important questions we need to ask ourselves. What about the conflicts that arise with those that are violent? If ever you've been in a relationship that is abusive, or that you've seen someone, or you've encountered a friend or a family member for that matter, that has been in a relationship that was abusive. Was that person that was abusive bringing about peace? Or was it the other way around? And this Jesus Christ says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Have you ever been around somebody that is peaceful? That regardless of how a conflict gets, conflicts get pretty bad, to the point blood is shed. Have you ever been around someone that can calm down conflicts? What kind of character does this person have? It's those people that are peacemakers that will be called sons of God. Very important, these concepts, and we need to internalize them, because there's a blessing in these things. It's a blessing if we can follow these very important principles, very important directions to lead us to that point where we feel like every moment we live in this life is a vacation. Imagine if we can get to that point. No worry. We smile even in the very moments where everybody is mourning. And these ones we need to internalize. Blessed are those that are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And that's what it boils down to. Once you've gone through all these requirements and you get to the point where you're good to each and every human being you can think of, those that love you and those that don't love you, the very last point, all of it, these blessings boils down to the point where you will be persecuted. You see? It's very important. If you're good to people, you become a rag. Everyone will step all over you. And that's the blessing. That's the blessing. So you need to have a character that gives power to people and makes them feel important to the point where you fall apart. And you look at powerful men that have lived according to this principle. Isaiah was a man of God. If you've read the book of Isaiah, his very thoughts, the way he thought is amazing. That man was cut in half while he was still alive. People got him and they saw him in half. You look at John the Baptist, he rebuked kings. Kings that did the most wicked things, he rebuked them. He told them, what you're doing is wrong. He lost his head. You look at this Jesus Christ, well, how did he die? Did Jesus Christ, was he a bad person? Did he do anything offensive?
Yeah.
You're getting off. So these principles is important.